The rain was relentless. It wasn't the gentle drizzle that sings softly against rooftops, it was the kind that came down in heavy, cold sheets, drowning the streets in silver streams. The sky hung low and gray, the wind carrying the sharp smell of wet concrete and rust. Cars hissed past on the flooded road, their headlights casting blurred streaks across the soaked pavement. On the sidewalk, a man in a worn-out wheelchair struggled against the torrent. His thin, frail hands gripped the wheels, but the weight of the water pooled on the ground and the slope of the pavement made every push a losing battle. His clothes were already drenched, clinging to his small, hunched frame. Rainwater streamed from the brim of his tattered cap, and the chill seeped deep into his bones. No one stopped. People walked by, heads down, coats pulled tight, avoiding his eyes, each step a silent statement, "It's not my problem." A small figure stood frozen across the street, her shoes soaked through, socks squishing with every step she'd taken so far. She was maybe 10 years old, her hair tied back in 2 uneven braids, a faded pink raincoat hanging loosely on her thin shoulders. She had no umbrella, only a worn schoolbag slung across her back. Her eyes, wide, dark, and unblinking, were fixed on the man. The world seemed to move around her in a blur, but she stood still, watching him struggle against a force far greater than his strength. She could have kept walking. Most would have. But something deep in her small heart stirred, a quiet, stubborn voice that whispered, "Don't leave him like this." Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small actions to change lives, please pause for just a moment to like this video, share it, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. It helps us share more real, moving stories that remind the world there's still good out there. The girl's name was Alina. She was used to walking home alone after school, used to slipping through the noise and rush of the city like a shadow. Her family lived in a cramped apartment above a small grocery store, the kind that smelled of spices and dust. Her father worked long shifts at a factory, her mother cleaned offices at night. Life for them was always about making it through the next week, paying the next bill. They didn't have the luxury to notice strangers on the street, let alone stop for them. But Alina, she noticed. She noticed the stray cat with a limp that lived near the dumpster. She noticed the old lady who counted her coins too slowly at the bakery. And now she noticed this man, caught in the rain with nowhere to go, his wheelchair stuck in a shallow gutter that had turned into a river. She darted across the street, her small hands clenching at the straps of her schoolbag as she fought against the wind. When she reached him, the rain felt heavier somehow, drumming against her hood with punishing force. She saw the deep lines carved into his face, the way his lips trembled not just from cold but from exhaustion. He tried to push himself again, but the wheel caught against the edge of the pavement, refusing to budge. Without a word, Alina dropped her bag and planted her feet behind the chair. She was so small, her hands barely reached the handles, but she pushed with all the stubborn strength in her body. Her sneakers slid on the slick ground, her breath coming in sharp bursts, her muscles straining. Inch by inch, the chair began to move, breaking free from the trap of the flooded gutter. The man turned his head slightly, his cloudy eyes searching her face, confusion flickering into disbelief. No one had stopped for him in a long time. She pushed him toward the awning of a closed shop, the only dry patch on the block. The rain still sprayed in sideways gusts, but at least it wasn't a direct downpour. Alina knelt by his side, her hair dripping, water running down her cheeks. She asked him where he needed to go, but his voice was hoarse, each word swallowed by the storm. She leaned closer, listening, and heard him say he was trying to get to the community shelter 2 streets away, a place he went when the nights got too cold for sleeping outside. She could have left him there. But Alina knew that 2 streets, in weather like this, might as well be a mile. She took hold of his chair again and began the slow, grueling push through the rain. People stared, some shook their heads, but no one joined her. Her arms burned, her fingers ached from gripping the wet handles, and her breath came in ragged gasps. At one point, a passing bus sent a wave of dirty water splashing over them, drenching them both anew. But Alina didn't stop. Step by step, puddle by puddle, she moved forward. By the time they reached the shelter, her legs felt like lead. The volunteer at the door rushed to bring them inside, wrapping the old man in a blanket, offering Alina a towel. Steam rose from their wet clothes in the heated air. The man's eyes followed her as she sat quietly on a bench, shivering. She didn't know his name, and he didn't know hers. But before she left, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn leather wallet. From it, he took a folded photograph of a smiling young woman holding a baby. His voice trembled as he told her it was his daughter, and that he hadn't seen her in years. Then he pressed the photo into her hands. "Keep it," he said. "So you remember, sometimes the smallest people do the biggest things." Alina kept that photo for years, tucked between her schoolbooks, then later in her purse. She didn't know that, just 2 weeks after that rainy day, the old man's daughter, now grown and searching for her father, would find him at that very shelter, reunited because someone cared enough to get him there. And she didn't know that years later, when Alina herself faced her darkest days, a letter would arrive at her door from that same daughter, offering help in a way that would save Alina's own family from losing their home. Kindness, it seemed, had a way of coming back, sometimes in ways that felt nothing short of miraculous. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. These stories exist because people like you keep the flame of compassion alive. Special request to comment: tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced a kindness from a stranger that changed your life? Your story might inspire someone else to do the same.